From a concrete bunker built into a bluff overlooking a quiet stretch of Normandy coastline, a German soldier watches fog lift off the English Channel at dawn to reveal a sight that makes his hands go still on his rifle: thousands of ships, stretching to the horizon in every direction, more vessels than he believed the entire world possessed, all of them turning toward the beach he has spent months fortifying. Behind him, the bunker itself represents nearly a year of labor: reinforced concrete walls poured thick enough to withstand direct naval gunfire, firing slits positioned to rake the beach below with interlocking fields of fire alongside neighboring positions built to the same exacting specifications. He has been told for years that this stretch of coast is unbreakable, that the concrete and steel around him represents the strongest defensive line ever constructed. In the next few hours, he will watch American soldiers prove that belief wrong, at a cost neither side will ever fully be able to describe. These files were sealed for a reason. Some, for 50 years. Tonight, they're open. What you are about to hear is drawn from the kind of diary entries recovered from German soldiers who defended the Normandy coast on June 6, 1944, reconstructed here to tell the story of the invasion that broke Hitler's Atlantic Wall, from the perspective of the men who had spent years being told this exact beach could never be taken. This is what it looked like from inside a bunker, as the largest amphibious invasion in human history arrived directly in front of it. June 5. Rumors circulate that an invasion is imminent, though we have heard such rumors for months now, and our officers have grown weary of raising the alert level only to stand down again days later when nothing materializes. The weather tonight is poor, rain and wind strong enough that even the most anxious among us struggle to believe any sane commander would launch an amphibious assault under these conditions. Some of the men in this position have taken the poor weather as further proof that nothing will happen tonight, and several officers from neighboring positions have reportedly left for leave or training exercises further inland, confident enough in the forecast that they judged the risk of being away from their posts acceptable. I write this by candlelight in a concrete bunker that has become, over many months of construction, something closer to a small fortress than a simple gun position: reinforced walls, interlocking fields of fire with neighboring positions, obstacles staked into the sand below designed to tear open the hull of any landing craft foolish enough to approach at the wrong tide. Our commanders have told us repeatedly that this section of coast represents one of the most heavily defended stretches of the entire Atlantic Wall, and looking out at the bluffs and beach obstacles surrounding my position, I find it difficult to imagine any force successfully crossing that open sand while under fire from where we sit. June 6, before dawn. Something has changed overnight, and every man in this position now understands it without needing to be told directly. Paratroopers, we are hearing over confused and contradictory radio reports, have landed somewhere inland behind our positions, scattered reports coming from several different directions at once, making it nearly impossible to determine the actual scale or location of what is happening. I do not know if this is the invasion itself or merely a diversion meant to draw our attention and reserves away from wherever the true landing will occur. Our officers seem equally uncertain, issuing orders and then countermanding them within the hour as new, often contradictory reports arrive from neighboring sectors. Whatever is happening, it does not feel like the isolated raid we have grown accustomed to dismissing over recent months. June 6, early morning. The fog has begun lifting off the water, and what it reveals has silenced every man in this position more completely than any order ever could. Ships, more than I can count, more than I believe the entire Allied Navy could possibly assemble in one place, stretching from one end of the horizon to the other, and every one of them appears to be turning toward this exact stretch of beach. I have fought in this war for years now, and I have never seen anything resembling the scale of what is approaching us this morning. The naval bombardment began within minutes of the fog lifting, shells impacting our positions with a violence that makes the concrete around me shudder even from what should be a survivable distance, dust and debris raining down inside the bunker with each impact, and I understand, watching this unfold, that whatever training and fortification we have spent months preparing is about to be tested more severely than any of our commanders' assurances ever accounted for. June 6, mid-morning. The landing craft are coming ashore now, and the beach below us, the same open stretch of sand we were told no army could cross under fire, has become something I do not have adequate words to describe. Our machine guns and artillery are firing continuously into the ranks of American soldiers wading through the surf, and for the first hour, it seems our defenses are working exactly as designed, American bodies falling in the shallow water and on the open sand well short of any cover, entire waves of infantry pinned down behind the same steel obstacles meant to stop their landing craft rather than their men. From my position I can see entire sections of the beach where movement has simply stopped, men flattened against the sand or crouched behind obstacles, some clearly wounded, others simply unable to force themselves forward into fire that has already cut down the soldiers who tried moving before them. I confess there was a grim satisfaction among some of the soldiers in this position during those first hours, a sense that the beach was performing precisely the function our engineers designed it for, a killing ground with nowhere for the enemy to hide, exactly as we had been promised it would be during the many months we spent preparing it. That satisfaction did not survive the morning. June 6, midday. I do not fully understand how it happened, and I suspect the soldiers who survived that beach on the American side understand it no better than I do from this side of the guns. Small groups of them, cut off from their officers, many of their units scattered and disorganized by the chaos of the landing itself, began moving forward anyway, in ones and twos, working their way up the bluffs through gaps in our wire and minefields that individual soldiers found and exploited without, as far as I can tell, any coordinated plan directing them to do so. There was no signal for this, no visible order passed down any chain of command that I could observe from my position, only a slow, ragged accumulation of individual decisions, one soldier moving, then another following, then a third, until what had been a pinned, motionless mass on the sand became a slow trickle of men working their way up terrain we had spent months preparing specifically to prevent. I watched, from a firing position I will not describe in detail, small clusters of American soldiers climbing terrain that our own defensive planning assumed no organized assault could cross under fire, and they were right, in a sense, because there was no organized assault climbing that bluff, only exhausted, frightened men who had decided, individually and in small groups, that continuing to lie on that beach meant certain death, and that the bluff, however deadly, at least offered the possibility of somewhere to go. June 6, afternoon. Positions to either side of mine have gone silent over the past several hours, some overrun directly, others apparently abandoned as American soldiers worked their way behind them along routes up the bluffs that our fixed defenses were never designed to cover from the rear. I do not know how many of my own comrades in neighboring bunkers are alive at this hour. The beach below, which this morning was a killing ground working exactly as our defenses intended, is now filling with American vehicles, equipment, and reinforcements moving inland in numbers that make any thought of pushing them back into the sea feel, for the first time since dawn, like a fantasy rather than a plan. I do not know if my own position will be attacked directly before nightfall or bypassed entirely as the Americans push inland around us. Either outcome, I am beginning to understand, ends the same way for this section of the Atlantic Wall. That diary entry, like others recovered from German soldiers who defended the Normandy coast, describes a defensive collapse that official planning documents on both sides had considered unlikely at best. Omaha Beach, the specific sector this diary describes, was defended by veteran German infantry positioned on bluffs overlooking open sand crossed by extensive obstacles, mines, and interlocking machine gun fire, defenses so formidable that American planners had genuinely feared casualties severe enough to threaten the entire invasion in this sector alone. For the first hours of the landing, that fear appeared justified, with American units suffering devastating losses pinned down on the beach itself, many landing craft failing to reach their intended positions due to strong currents and navigational errors, and entire companies rendered combat ineffective within minutes of reaching the sand, some losing the majority of their men before they had advanced more than a few yards from the waterline. What ultimately broke the German defense at Omaha was not a coordinated tactical breakthrough directed from above, but exactly what that diary describes: small, disorganized groups of American soldiers, cut off from officers and original unit structure, individually deciding to move forward rather than remain pinned on a beach that offered no survivable alternative, finding gaps in the German defensive network through improvisation rather than planning. Historians studying the battle afterward have identified this pattern: individual initiative among junior officers and enlisted men filling the vacuum left by a disrupted chain of command, as the decisive factor that turned a beach landing on the verge of failure into a foothold that, by the end of the day, could not be dislodged. American casualties at Omaha Beach on June 6 numbered over 2,000, among the heaviest of any single beach in the entire invasion, a cost that, however severe, purchased a permanent breach in defenses the German High Command had spent years building and had genuinely believed capable of throwing any invasion back into the sea. By nightfall on June 6, over 150,000 Allied troops had come ashore across 5 separate beaches in Normandy, and the German Atlantic Wall, a defensive system Hitler had ordered built specifically to make an invasion of this kind impossible, had been breached in a single day, opening a path that would lead, within 11 months, to the complete collapse of Nazi Germany itself. So, what do you think? Was the breakthrough at Omaha Beach the most remarkable example of individual American initiative in the entire war, or do you know another moment from D-Day that deserves that title? Let me know in the comments below, and if stories like this one, real battles seen through the eyes of the men who fought them, including the ones on the losing side of history, are the kind of thing you want more of, make sure to subscribe to A Veteran Tale, leave a like, and turn on notifications, because there are a lot more stories like this one waiting to be told.